The day they came, the morning sun cast long shadows across New Eden Colony as children played in the central garden. 8-year-old Tom kicked a ball to his friend Lisa, while younger kids built castles in the sandbox. Parents worked nearby, tending crops and maintaining equipment, their voices mixing with children's laughter in the peaceful settlement. Captain Ross stood on the security tower, scanning the horizon through his binoculars. New Eden was a frontier colony, far from the main shipping lanes, which meant both safety and isolation. The early warning systems had been quiet for months, detecting nothing more threatening than occasional meteor showers. The first sign of trouble came as a shadow falling across the playground. "Mom, why did the sun go out?" 6-year-old Beth asked, looking up from her toy spaceship above them. Massive alien vessels descended through the clouds. Their hulls were dark metal, covered in strange symbols that seemed to shift and change. Energy crackled along their surfaces as they moved with impossible silence. Captain Ross grabbed his communicator. "All units, this is not a drill. Unknown hostiles approaching the colony. Activate defense protocols immediately." The colony's defenses were basic, a few energy. Cannons and shield generators meant for asteroid deflection, not warfare. Ross watched helplessly as blue beams lanced down from the ships, disabling their weapons before they could fire a single shot in the garden. The children stared upward in wonder and fear. Their parents ran toward them, shouting for everyone to get inside, but it was too late. Smaller craft detached from the main ships, descending like metal insects toward the playground. "Stay together," Tom shouted, grabbing Beth's hand as strange beings emerged from the landed craft. The aliens were tall and thin, with gray skin and large black eyes. They wore dark armor and carried weapons that hummed with energy. Their leader stepped forward, scanning the group of children with what looked like a handheld device. "Fascinating," the alien said, its voice translated through a collar device. "Juvenile Deathworlders. The arena crowds will pay well for these specimens." Lisa tried to run, but an energy net caught her, lifting her off the ground. The net didn't hurt, but she couldn't break free, no matter how hard she struggled. One by one, the other children were caught the same way. "Let them go," Ross shouted, running toward the aliens with several colonists behind him. The alien leader raised its weapon, and Ross froze mid-step as an energy field held him in place. "Your offspring show remarkable aggression for their age. Most species become docile when captured. These creatures continue fighting even when escape is impossible." Tom bit at the energy net holding him, his teeth finding nothing solid to grip. "We're not afraid of you," he yelled. The alien seemed amused. "Even better. Fear makes combat boring. Warriors who fight from courage provide much better entertainment." 23 children floated in the energy nets as they were loaded into the alien ships. Parents screamed and begged, but the colonists were powerless against the advanced technology. The aliens worked with casual efficiency, as if they had done this many times before. "These Deathworlder spawn will make excellent gladiators," the leader told its subordinates. "Begin genetic scans. The arena masters will want full biological profiles." As the alien ships prepared to lift off, Captain Ross broke free from the energy field. He sprinted toward the communication center, his fingers flying over the controls as he activated the emergency beacon. "Mayday, Mayday, this is New Eden Colony. Children taken by unknown hostiles. 23 human juveniles captured. Colonial Defense Forces overwhelmed. Request immediate assistance from any Terran military units." He transmitted their coordinates and uploaded all sensor data from the attack. The message burst out through subspace, racing toward the nearest human military installations at faster-than-light speed. Above the colony, the alien ships climbed toward orbit. Through the transparent walls of their prison, the children watched their home shrink below them. Some cried quietly, while others pressed their faces against the walls, memorizing every detail of the alien craft. "Don't worry," Tom whispered to the younger kids. "Someone will come for us. Humans always help each other." The ships disappeared into hyperspace, leaving New Eden's colonists staring at empty skies. But Ross's message was already spreading through human space, reaching communication hubs and military bases across dozens of star systems. Aboard the battleship Vengeance, Admiral Kane was reviewing patrol reports when his communications officer burst onto the bridge. "Sir, Priority 1 emergency signal from New Eden Colony. Children have been taken, sir. Alien hostiles with unknown technology." Admiral Kane's face went hard as stone. He had children of his own, safe on Earth, but these were human children. That made them his responsibility. "Signal the fleet," he ordered. "All available ships converge on these coordinates. Maximum speed." Within hours, warships across human space received the same order. The Terran Defense Fleet was moving, and for the first time in decades, they were united by a single purpose that burned in every human heart. The hunt was about to begin. Asterisk. The hunt begins. The Terran Defense Fleet arrived at New Eden like a steel storm descending from the void. 12 battleships led the formation, their hulls scarred from previous conflicts, followed by cruisers and destroyers that had been pulled from patrol routes across human space. Admiral Kane stood on the bridge of the Vengeance, watching his screens fill with friendly contacts. "Fleet strength report," he ordered. 47 combat vessels, sir. More arriving every hour. The Marcus Aurelius battle group diverted from the Centauri sector. "Captain Davis reports they'll reach us in 6 hours. Kane nodded. In 30 years of military service, he had never seen the fleet respond so quickly to a single call. But then again, no one had ever dared take human children before. Captain Ross met the Admiral at the colony's landing pad, his face drawn with exhaustion and guilt. Behind him stood dozens of colonists, their eyes red from crying, clutching photos of their missing children. "Report, Captain," Kane said, his voice gentle despite the rage burning in his chest. "They came without warning, sir. Advanced technology, far beyond anything in our databases. Energy weapons, force fields, ships that moved without visible propulsion." Ross handed over a datapad. "We recorded everything we could. Dr. Hayes, the fleet's chief xenobiologist, studied the sensor readings with growing concern. She was a small woman with gray hair, but her mind held more knowledge about alien species than any other human alive. Admiral, these readings match reports from the galactic fringe. The ship configurations, the energy signatures ... double quotes." She paused, her face pale. "I believe these were Vrak Empire vessels. Never heard of them." Kane replied, "Most humans haven't. They operate beyond our usual space, in the contested zones between major powers. The Vrak are slavers, sir. They capture sentient beings for gladiatorial combat in their mobile arenas." The colonists gasped. A woman named Maria stepped forward, tears streaming down her face. "My little boy is only 6 years old. He can't fight in some alien arena. Double quotes." Dr. Hayes looked uncomfortable. "Admiral, the Vrak prefer children. Young beings are easier to train, and they provide years of entertainment as they grow and develop fighting skills." Kane's jaw tightened. "How do we find them?" "That's the problem, sir. Vrak fortress worlds are mobile, constantly moving through hyperspace. They could be anywhere in a sphere thousands of light years across." Captain Torres stepped forward. The intelligence officer was young for his rank, but his reputation for finding impossible solutions was legendary. "Actually, sir, we might have an advantage they don't know about. Explain. All children on frontier colonies carry ID chips. Standard safety protocol. The chips emit a unique quantum signature that can be tracked across interstellar distances if you know what to look for." Dr. Hayes shook her head. The range limitations would make that impossible across galactic distances. Torres smiled grimly. Not with our new sensor arrays. The fleet's been upgraded with quantum resonance scanners for deep space reconnaissance. If we coordinate the search properly, we can track those signatures. Kane felt hope stir in his chest. How long? Give me 12 hours to calibrate the sensors and coordinate search patterns with the fleet. If those children are within 50 light years, we'll find them. As the human ships spread across space in an expanding search pattern, their activities didn't go unnoticed. On the neutral station Deep Port, alien traders watched the massive fleet movements with growing concern. Ambassador Kell of the Altair Union was a peaceful being, resembling a tall, slender humanoid with blue skin and large, thoughtful eyes. His species had maintained friendly relations with humanity for decades, trading technology and cultural exchanges. Open a channel to the human fleet. Kell ordered his communications officer. Admiral Kane's stern face appeared on the screen. Ambassador, what can I do for you? Admiral Kane, my sensors detect unprecedented military activity in this sector. Surely whatever dispute has arisen can be resolved through diplomatic channels. No dispute, Ambassador. Someone took our children. We're getting them back. Kell's large eyes widened. In Altair culture, children were precious beyond measure, raised communally by entire cities. I understand your concern, Admiral. But if you're hunting the Vrak Empire, you should know they possess superior technology in mobile fortress worlds that have never been successfully attacked. Kane's expression never changed. They took human children, Ambassador. There will be no diplomacy. The channel closed, leaving Kell staring at a blank screen. He immediately sent urgent messages to the Galactic Council, warning them that humanity was mobilizing for war against the Vrak. Most species dismissed his concerns. Humans were known as reasonable beings. Surely they would accept negotiated solutions. But other aliens who had studied human history understood better. The Corvan trade captain Vel had read Earth's military records, studying human conflicts to better understand his business partners. They have made a terrible mistake, Vel told his crew as he watched the human fleet spreading across space. These humans fought wars on their homeworld for thousands of years. They perfected killing before they reached the stars. His second-in-command, a young Corvan named Rix, looked puzzled. But Admiral Kane seems reasonable in trade negotiations. You don't understand, Vel replied, pulling up historical files. Human wars weren't fought for territory or resources. They fought most fiercely when protecting their families. This Vrak commander has awakened something that should have stayed sleeping. Aboard the Vengeance, Captain Torres worked through the night, coordinating sensor sweeps across dozens of star systems. The quantum signatures were faint, scattered by hyperspace distortions and stellar interference, but slowly a pattern began to emerge. Admiral, I'm getting resonance matches from the Kepler sector. Multiple signatures. Definitely our missing children. Range 47 light years, bearing 2-7- Mark-4. Kane studied the tactical display. The location was in contested space, far from any major shipping lanes or inhabited systems. Perfect hunting ground for slavers who wanted to avoid attention. Signal the fleet. Set course for the Kepler sector, maximum speed. Send word to all human colonies. If any ship encounters Vrak forces, they are to be considered hostile. No warning shots, no negotiations. As the human fleet jumped to hyperspace, their destination locked on the quantum signatures of their stolen children. News of their movement spread throughout the galaxy. The peaceful species worried about human aggression, while predator races began to pay attention to these Deathworlders, who refused to accept the loss of their young dot in the depths of space. A Vrak fortress world drifted between stars, its commanders unaware that the most dangerous predators in the galaxy were coming for them. The hunt had begun. Asterisk, Inside the Vrak Fortress world, domination stretched across space like a metallic cancer, its surface bristling with weapon towers and docking bays. Deep within its armored hull, the human children huddled together in a holding cell that reeked of fear and alien chemicals. 10-year-old Jake had taken charge of the group, organizing the older kids to watch over the younger ones. He was tall for his age, with sandy hair and determined eyes that reminded the others of their parents back home. "Eat something, Beth," he said gently, offering the 6-year-old a portion of the gray nutrient paste their captors provided. "We need to stay strong." Beth shook her head, tears running down her cheeks. "It tastes awful. I want to go home. I want my mommy." Lisa, who was 9, put her arm around the younger girl. "We all want to go home. But Jake's right. If we don't eat, we won't be able to fight when the time comes." Through the transparent wall of their cell, they could see other prisoners, aliens from dozens of different species, all captured for the Vrak gladiatorial games. Most sat in silent despair, but the human children talked constantly, planning and plotting despite their fear. Guard Captain Nex observed them through security monitors, fascinated by their behavior. In 20 years of managing arena prisoners, he had never seen anything like these young Deathworlders. Most species become docile within hours of capture, he reported to General Voss, commander of the fortress. These humans continue organizing, planning, caring for each other. Even the smallest ones show no signs of giving up. General Voss was a massive Vrak, nearly 8 feet tall, with gray skin marked by ritual scars from his own gladiatorial career. His black eyes studied the human children with interest. Remarkable. Their emotional bonds are stronger than most adult species. This will make for excellent entertainment when we separate them in the arena. Sir, perhaps we should begin conditioning them individually. Break their group unity before? No, Voss interrupted. The crowds pay premium prices to watch family bonds shatter under pressure. We'll keep them together until the tournament begins. In their cell, Jake gathered the older children around him while the younger ones slept. At 13, he was the oldest, followed by Lisa, Tom, and Anna, who was 11. "I heard the guards talking," Jake whispered. "There's going to be some kind of tournament in 3 days. They're planning to make us fight." Anna's face went pale. "Fight what?" "Other prisoners, maybe animals. I don't know exactly, but we need to be ready." Jake looked at each of them seriously. "My dad was in the Colonial Marines before we moved to New Eden. He taught me some things about fighting and survival." Tom nodded eagerly. "What do we do?" "First, we stay together no matter what. Second, we watch for opportunities to escape. And third, ... double quotes. Jake's voice hardened in a way that would have made his father proud. "If we have to fight, we fight to win." Over the next day, Jake quietly taught the other children everything he could remember from his father's lessons. How to move silently, how to strike vital points, how to use anything as a weapon. The younger children watched with wide eyes as the older ones practiced basic combat moves. The Vrak guards found their behavior amusing. These soft creatures from their garden world thought they could become warriors in a few days. It would make their defeats even more entertaining, but the children had advantages their captors didn't understand. Humans had evolved as persistence predators, capable of long-term planning and incredible endurance. Even young humans possessed survival instincts honed by millions of years of evolution on a dangerous world. On the second day, Anna discovered something important. While pretending to sleep, she noticed that the guard patrol pattern had a gap, 30 seconds every 2 hours when the corridor outside their cell was empty. "It's not much," she whispered to Jake, "but maybe enough time to reach that maintenance hatch we saw." Jake studied the corridor layout they had memorized. The maintenance hatch led to the fortress's service tunnels, which might provide a way to reach the docking bays. It was a desperate plan, But it was better than waiting to be killed for entertainment. We'll wait until after the tournament starts, Jake decided. All the guards will be focused on the arena. That's our best chance. General Voss reviewed the tournament preparations from his command center. The main arena could hold 50,000 spectators, and advance ticket sales had exceeded all expectations. Wealthy Vrak from across the Empire were coming to see the legendary human children fight. The opening match will be the youngest humans against a pack of Rigelian shadowcats, his arena master reported. Non-lethal, but frightening enough to test their courage. If they show proper spirit, we can keep them alive for multiple tournaments. And if they prove cowardly, then we feed them to something larger in the closing ceremony. Voss nodded approval. Either way, the fortress would profit handsomely from these exotic prisoners. Unknown to the Vrak, the children's ID chips continued broadcasting their quantum signatures into space. The signals were weak, scattered by the fortress's shielding, but they were there for anyone with the right equipment to detect dot in the depths of hyperspace. The human fleet raced toward the Kepler sector at maximum speed. Admiral Kane stood on the bridge of the Vengeance, watching the tactical display count down the distance to their destination. ETA to target coordinates? He asked. 18 hours, sir. Long-range sensors are already detecting massive artificial structures in the target system. Dr. Hayes looked up from her research station. Admiral, I've been studying Vrak fortress worlds. They're essentially mobile planets, with populations in the millions and defensive systems that have never been successfully breached. Kane's expression never wavered. Dr. Hayes, they took our children. I don't care if it's defended by the entire galactic fleet. We're getting them back. Throughout the human fleet, similar conversations were taking place. Every captain, every marine, every pilot understood what was at stake. This wasn't about territory or politics or trade disputes. This was about human children being held captive by aliens who saw them as entertainment. The fury that burned in human hearts was older than civilization, deeper than reason. It was the rage of parents protecting their young, magnified across an entire species and backed by the most advanced military technology humanity could build. The Vrak had made a mistake that would echo across the galaxy for generations to come. They had touched something that should never be touched, and now the Deathworlders were coming for them in their cell aboard the fortress. Jake looked up at the metal ceiling and whispered a promise that none of their captors heard. Hold on, everyone. Help is coming. I know it is. Far away, racing through hyperspace at speeds that bent reality itself. Admiral King made the same promise to the empty stars. We're coming. Just hold on a little longer. Asterisk, the fleet arrives. Human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler system, like avenging angels descending from the void. Admiral Kane stood on the bridge of the Vengeance, staring at the tactical display that showed the massive Vrak fortress world hanging in space like a mechanical planet. Mother of Earth, whispered Commander Wells, Kane's second in command. That thing is enormous. The fortress was indeed massive, easily 3 times the size of Earth's moon. Its surface covered in cities, weapon emplacements, and docking bays. Hundreds of smaller ships orbited around it like metal moons, creating a defensive sphere that had never been penetrated. Sir, we're detecting over 200 hostile vessels, reported the tactical officer. Multiple battleship-class contacts, heavy cruisers, and what looks like dedicated fighter squadrons. Kane studied the display calmly. The human fleet was outnumbered 4-1, facing superior technology and an enemy that had been fighting in space for centuries, before humans ever left Earth. By any reasonable military assessment, they should retreat and call for reinforcements. But reasonable military assessments didn't account for human children being held captive inside that fortress. Signal the fleet, Kane ordered. All ships prepare for combat. Target their outer defensive line. Admiral, Dr. Hayes said urgently, "Perhaps we should attempt communication first." The Vrak might be willing to negotiate. Doctor, with respect, they kidnapped children from their homes to use as gladiators for entertainment. There will be no negotiation. As if summoned by Kane's words, a communication signal came from the fortress. The main screen flickered to life, showing General Voss in all his scarred, imposing presence. "I am General Voss, commander of this fortress. You have entered sovereign Vrak space with a military fleet. State your business or withdraw immediately." Kane stepped forward, his face hard as granite. "I am Admiral Kane of the Terran Defense Fleet. You are holding 23 human children. Release them immediately." General Voss looked amused. "Ah, you must be referring to our newest arena acquisitions. Fascinating specimens from the legendary Deathworld. I'm afraid they're not available for return. The tournament begins in 6 hours, and advance ticket sales have been quite profitable. This is your final warning. Release the children or face the consequences." Voss laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Consequences? Little Deathworlder, do you see the size of my fortress? The strength of my fleet? Your primitive vessels are no match for Vrak military technology." Kane's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. "General, you have never faced humans in battle. You have no idea what just awakened." The communication channel closed. Kane turned to his tactical officer. "All ships, open fire." The space around the fortress erupted in violence as hundreds of weapons fired simultaneously. Human kinetic accelerators hurled tungsten slugs at a significant fraction of light speed, while plasma cannons painted space with deadly energy. The Vrak defensive fleet moved to intercept, their elegant ships dancing through space with advanced maneuvering systems. The humans fought with a desperation and coordination that shocked their enemies. Every human captain knew that their species' children were depending on them, and that knowledge made them push their ships beyond normal limits. Captain Martinez, aboard the destroyer, Phoenix drove his ship directly through a formation of Vrak cruisers, his hull taking terrible damage, while his weapons carved through enemy shields. "For the children," he shouted over the communication channel as his ship exploded, taking 2 Vrak vessels with it. The battle cry was picked up by every human ship. "For the children," echoed across space as the Terran fleet pressed their attack with suicidal courage. Inside the fortress, the children felt the structure shake as weapon impacts struck the outer hull. Emergency lights flashed, and they could hear alien voices shouting orders in languages they didn't understand. "That's weapons fire," Jake said, his heart racing with hope. "Someone's attacking the fortress." Tom pressed his face against the transparent wall, trying to see outside. "Do you think it's our people? Do you think they came for us?" "I know they did," Jake replied firmly. "Humans don't leave their own behind. Ever." The younger children began crying with relief, while the older ones started preparing for whatever might come next. If their rescuers were here, they needed to be ready to help themselves. General Voss watched the space battle from his command center with growing concern. The human ships were smaller than his vessels, with less advanced technology, but they fought like nothing he had ever encountered. They seemed willing to sacrifice themselves without hesitation, trading their lives for tactical advantages. "Status report," he demanded. "Sir, we've destroyed 8 enemy vessels, but we've lost 12 of our own." "These humans, they're not fighting like any species we've encountered. They're coordinating perfectly, using suicide attacks to break our formations." Through the tactical display, Voss watched a human battleship ram directly into one of his heavy cruisers, both ships vanishing in a ball of plasma. The humans were fighting like the legendary berserkers of ancient Vrak history, warriors who valued honor and family above their own lives. "Sir, perhaps we should consider returning their young. This level of resistance is unprecedented. Never." Voss snarled. No species has ever breached this fortress. We are Vrak. We bow to no one." But even as he spoke, the human fleet was adapting to Vrak tactics with frightening speed. Admiral Kane had realized that direct assault was costly, so he began using human advantages, superior communication, tactical flexibility, and most importantly, the willingness to take risks no sane military commander would accept. Signal the Marcus Aurelius Battle Group, Kane ordered. "Prepare for Operation Spear Point." Commander Wells looked shocked. "Sir, that's a theoretical assault plan. We've never tested it in actual combat. We're testing it now. Those children don't have time for us to play it safe. Operation Spear Point was a desperate tactical gambit using the fleet's fastest ships to punch through the enemy defensive line while the main force kept them distracted. It required perfect timing and absolute coordination, with no room for error. As the human ships began their complex dance of death, alien observers throughout the galaxy watched in amazement. The peaceful traders and diplomatic species had never seen humans fight a real war, and the display of tactical brilliance, combined with absolute determination, was both terrifying and inspiring. On the neutral station Deep Port, Ambassador Kell watched the battle feeds with growing horror and respect. "They're going to do it," he whispered. "Somehow, those magnificent madmen are actually going to breach the fortress." The space battle raged on, but both sides knew the real fight was just beginning. Inside that fortress, 23 human children waited for rescue, while thousands of Vrak warriors prepared to stop the Deathworlders from reaching them. The universe was about to learn why you should never, ever threaten human children. Rescue and Reckoning. The breakthrough came at exactly 0347 hours ship time. Captain Morgan's battle cruiser, Indomitable, her hull scarred and venting atmosphere, punched through the Vrak defensive line like a bullet through paper. Behind her, 3 human destroyers and a marine assault ship followed through the gap before the Vrak could react. "Breach successful," Morgan reported, her voice crackling through static. "Marine insertion teams, go, go, go." Colonel Smith led the assault force aboard the marine ship Fury. He was a veteran of the Titan Wars, a man who had learned to fight in the asteroid belts, where one mistake meant death in the vacuum. His troops were the best humanity had to offer, soldiers who volunteered for the most dangerous missions in space. "Listen up, Marines!" Smith shouted over the sound of boarding pods launching. "Those kids have been prisoners for 3 days. They're scared, they're probably hurt, and they're counting on us. We don't leave anyone behind." The boarding pods struck the fortress hull like hammers, their cutting charges melting through armor that had never been breached. Human Marines poured into the corridors, their weapons spitting fire as Vrak defenders rushed to meet them. The fighting was brutal and close quarters. Vrak warriors were larger and stronger than humans, with natural armor and razor-sharp claws. But humans fought with weapons designed for war, not sport, and they had something their enemies lacked: absolute desperation to save their children. Private Johnson, barely 18 years old, emptied his rifle into a charging Vrak warrior, then drew his combat knife when the alien kept coming. The blade found gaps in the creature's armor, and Johnson held on grimly as they both crashed to the floor. "For Earth!" he screamed, driving the knife deeper until the alien stopped moving. Throughout the fortress, similar battles raged as human Marines pushed deeper into the structure. They followed the quantum signatures from the children's ID chips, the signals growing stronger with each corridor they cleared. Meanwhile, in the holding cells, Jake heard the sound of human weapons echoing through the walls. He had grown up on a military colony. He knew the distinctive whine of plasma rifles and the sharp crack of kinetic rounds. "That's human weapons," he told the others excitedly. "They're here. They actually came for us." But their joy was short-lived. Emergency lights began flashing throughout the prison section, and alien voices echoed from hidden speakers. Though they couldn't understand the words, the tone was clear. Something bad was about to happen. General Voss stood in his command center, watching his fortress burn around him. Human Marines had breached 17 sections, and more were landing every minute. His defensive forces were being pushed back despite their superior numbers. "Sir," his aide reported desperately, "the humans are fighting like nothing in our databases. They seem immune to fear, and their tactical coordination is perfect." Voss snarled in frustration. These Deathworlders were supposed to be primitive, barely past their first interstellar war. How were they destroying a fortress that had stood unconquered for centuries? Then the reports came in about human prisoners throughout the galaxy. The Federation of Peaceful Worlds contacted him with urgent warnings. Apparently, humans had a reputation for never abandoning their own people. They fought wars to rescue single captured soldiers, traveled across the galaxy to retrieve lost colonists. "Impossible," Voss muttered. "No species wastes resources on individuals. The collective is what matters." But as he watched his tactical display, he began to understand. These humans weren't fighting for territory or profit. They were fighting for their children, and that made them more dangerous than any weapon. "Activate the fortress self-destruct sequence," he ordered. His aides stared at him in shock. "Sir, there are millions of Vrak civilians aboard this fortress. The arena crowds alone. If we cannot win, then no one wins. Activate the sequence." 10 minutes to detonation. Throughout the fortress, warning sirens began wailing. Panic spread as Vrak civilians realized their leader intended to destroy everything rather than face defeat. "Colonel," Smith heard the sirens and immediately understood what they meant. "All units, Priority 1 evacuation. We have minutes to get those kids out of here." His Marines redoubled their efforts, fighting through Vrak defenders with renewed desperation. The ID chip signals were getting stronger. They were close now. Just a few more corridors. In their cell, the children felt the fortress shaking more violently. Young Beth was crying again, and even Jake looked scared as debris began falling from the ceiling. "Something's wrong," Kenna said quietly. The aliens looked panicked. Through their transparent wall, they could see Vrak guards running past their cell, abandoning their posts. Whatever was happening, it had frightened their captors badly. Then they heard it, human voices shouting in English, getting closer with each second. "This way. The signal's strongest down this corridor. Check every cell. Don't miss anyone. Marines, we're here." Jake shouted at the top of his lungs, banging on the transparent wall. The other children joined in, screaming and shouting until their voices echoed through the prison section. And then, like something from a dream, human soldiers in combat armor appeared at the end of the corridor. "Found them," Sergeant Lopez called into his communicator. 23 human children, all alive. The Marine techs began working on the cell's locking mechanism while Colonel Smith knelt down to talk to the children through the wall. "Hey there, kids. I'm Colonel Smith with the Terran Defense Fleet. We're here to take you home. Are you really human?" Beth asked wonderingly. "You look different in that armor." Smith smiled, pulling off his helmet to show his weathered face. "As human as they come, sweetheart. Now, we need to get you out of here fast. This place is about to blow up." The cell door finally opened, and the children rushed toward their rescuers. But even as the Marines began moving them toward the escape route, the fortress shook with a massive explosion somewhere deep in its core. "Move, move, move," Smith shouted. "We've got maybe 3 minutes before this whole place goes up." The evacuation became a desperate race through collapsing corridors. Human Marines carried the smaller children, while the older ones ran alongside them. Behind them, the fortress was tearing itself apart as the self-destruct sequence reached critical stages. It reached the docking bay just as the last evacuation shuttle was preparing to launch. Admiral Kane himself stood at the shuttle's ramp, his stern face breaking into relief as he saw the children. All aboard. Kane shouted, "Everyone get strapped in." The shuttle launched just as a chain reaction of explosions began racing through the fortress's core. Through the viewports, the children watched the massive structure that had been their prison tear itself apart in brilliant flashes of light. "Is it over?" Tom asked quietly. "Are we really safe?" Kane knelt down beside the boy's seat, his voice gentle despite the chaos around him. "You're safe now, son. You're going home." As the shuttle reached the safety of the human fleet, General Voss's fortress world died in a spectacular explosion that could be seen from 3 star systems away. With it died the myth of Vrak invincibility and the arrogance of an empire that thought children were acceptable prey. The surviving Vrak fleet scattered across space, carrying word of what had happened. Throughout the galaxy, other predator species heard the message clearly. Humans would cross any distance, pay any price, fight any enemy to protect their young. 3 days later, the human fleet returned to New Eden Colony, to scenes of celebration that would be remembered for generations. Parents were reunited with children they thought they would never see again, and the entire colony turned out to welcome home their heroes. Jake stood with his parents, looking up at the stars where the human fleet maintained its patrol. He was still just 10 years old, but something had changed in those dark days aboard the Vrak fortress. He had learned that humans never abandoned each other, no matter the cost. "Will they come back?" he asked his father. "The bad aliens?" His father, a former Marine himself, followed his son's gaze to the stars where human warships stood guard. "No, son." Words already spreading through alien space about what happened here. They know now, you don't mess with human children. Ever. Admiral Kane stood on the bridge of the Vengeance, reading reports from across human space. Other alien species were reviewing their policies toward humanity, and several aggressive empires had quietly canceled raids planned for human colonies. The galaxy had learned a lesson written in fire and fury across the void. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their weapons or their ships. It was their absolute, unbreakable commitment to protecting their own, especially their children. The Deathworlders had come for their young, and the universe would never be the same dot as the fleet prepared to return to normal patrol duties. A final message came from the Galactic Council. They were formally recognizing human space as a protected zone, with severe penalties for any species that threatened human colonies. Kane smiled grimly as he read the message. It had taken the kidnapping of 23 children to teach the galaxy respect for humanity, but the lesson was learned. No one would ever dare touch human children. Again, the stars themselves would bear witness to that promise. The end asterisk